The scorch marks stretched across the Wyoming plains like dark fingers clawing at the earth. Sarah Martinez killed the engine of her pickup truck and stepped out into the pre-dawn silence, her breath forming small clouds in the frigid air. She'd been tracking the meteor, or whatever it was, since it streaked across the sky 3 hours ago, leaving a trail of burning light that had lit up her ranch like midday. But this was no meteor. The pod was roughly the size of a small car, its surface a matte obsidian that seemed to absorb the light from her flashlight rather than reflect it. Strange symbols glowed faintly along its seams, pulsing in a rhythm that reminded Sarah of a heartbeat. She approached carefully, her hand instinctively moving to the hunting rifle slung across her back. That's when she heard it, a tiny roar, then another. High-pitched, desperate, and unmistakably alive. Sarah's protective instincts kicked in before her survival ones could protest. She circled the pod until she found what looked like a control panel, its symbols shifting and changing as if responding to her presence. She pressed her palm against it, and with a hiss of escaping atmosphere, a section of the hull slid open. The smell hit her first. Alien, yes, but underneath it something familiar. The scent of newborns, that mix of warmth and vulnerability that every mammal seemed to share. Inside the pod, nestled in what looked like emergency stasis cradles, were 3 cubs. They weren't quite like anything on Earth, yet Sarah's brain tried to make sense of them anyway. Feline features dominated, large eyes that glowed amber in the darkness, small tufted ears, bodies covered in downy fur that shimmered between silver and blue. But they were also something else, something other. 4-limbed like Earth mammals, but with an extra set of vestigial appendages folded against their sides. Small crystalline structures protruded from their foreheads, dim now but clearly meant to glow. One of them mewled again, reaching tiny paws toward Sarah. She didn't hesitate. Years of ranching had taught her that when something needs help, you help it. Questions come later. She carefully lifted the first cub. It was surprisingly light, maybe 10 pounds, and cradled it against her chest. It immediately nuzzled into her jacket, seeking warmth. The other 2 followed, their tiny roars intensifying until Sarah had all 3 bundled in her arms. Okay, I've got you," she murmured. The same tone she'd used 1,000 times with orphaned calves and injured foals. "Let's get you somewhere warm." The pod's interior revealed more as her eyes adjusted. There was text, or what she assumed was text, scrolling across a cracked display screen. Images flickered, what looked like a star map, then faces that might have been the cubs' parents. Adult versions of these creatures, regal and intelligent, their crystalline horns fully formed and glowing with inner light. Then came images of destruction, ships burning, worlds under attack, the desperate evacuation. Sarah understood. These weren't just alien animals. These were refugees. Over the following weeks, Sarah's ranch became something entirely different. She'd made the call not to report the pod or its passengers to the authorities. Maybe it was the way the cubs had looked at her with those intelligent, trusting eyes. Maybe it was the warrior's instinct she'd inherited from her Marine father, protect the vulnerable, ask questions later. Or maybe it was simpler than that. Maybe it was just the human capacity to see something small and helpless and say, "Mine to protect." She named them Luna, Nova, and Comet. They grew fast, alarmingly fast by Earth standards. Within 2 weeks, they'd doubled in size and were walking on all 4s with increasing confidence. Their crystalline horns began to glow softly when they were content, which Sarah learned was often, especially when they were curled up around her feet by the fireplace. Marcus Chen, her neighbor and a former NASA engineer turned rancher, was the only person she trusted with her secret. He spent hours examining the pod's remains, trying to decode its systems. "Sarah, do you understand what you've done?" Marcus asked one evening, watching Luna playfully wrestle with Nova while Comet climbed onto Sarah's lap. According to the pod's logs, and yes, I finally cracked some of it, their species, the Karathi, are considered apex predators across 3-star systems. They're warriors, hunters, fiercely territorial, and these 3 are royalty of some kind. You're basically raising alien princesses. Sarah scratched Comet behind her ear, earning a purr that made the windows rattle. They're babies, Marcus. Someone sent them here for safety. Someone trusted that whoever found them would do the right thing. And you think Earth is going to let you keep them when the world finds out? Earth doesn't get a vote, Sarah said firmly. I found them. I'm their mother now. That's how it works. Marcus shook his head, but smiled. You know what's funny? I've been reading human anthropology papers alongside the alien data. You want to know what makes humans unique in the galaxy? What? Pack bonding. Most species bond with their own kind. Maybe 1 or 2 compatible species they evolved alongside. But humans? We'll adopt anything. Wolves became dogs because we said, "You're cute. You're coming home with me." We keep cats even though they're clearly using us. People have pet snakes, spiders, fish, birds, things that by all logic shouldn't trigger our protective instincts. And here you are proving that we'll even adopt alien apex predators without a second thought. Sarah looked down at Comet, whose luminescent eyes gazed back with absolute trust. Maybe that's not a weakness, Marcus. Maybe that's our superpower. 3 months after the crash, long-range scanners picked up multiple ships entering Earth's atmosphere. The Karathi had come looking for their lost royalty. Sarah stood on her porch, Luna, Nova, and Comet, flanking her like guards despite their young age. They were bigger now, the size of lions, their horns glowing bright with recognition as the elegant ships descended. When the Karathi matriarch emerged, towering and magnificent, her eyes locked onto Sarah with an intensity that should have been terrifying. But Sarah didn't flinch. She'd faced down bulls, storms, and her own demons. She could face this. The matriarch approached, then did something unexpected. She bowed her head low, her crystalline horn dimming in a gesture of respect. You protected our children when we could not. The matriarch's voice resonated directly in Sarah's mind. By Karathi law, you are their mother now. By Karathi honor, you are our family. Earth has gained more than an ally today, Sarah Martinez. You have gained a species that we'll never forget. Sarah smiled, feeling Luna nuzzle against her side. Welcome to the family, then. I hope you're ready for Sunday dinners. They're mandatory around here. Humanity had made first contact not through governments or grand diplomatic missions, but through one woman's simple choice to help something small and scared. And sometimes, that's all it takes to change the galaxy. A willingness to roar for those who can't roar for themselves.